This episode of the Good Living Now podcast is sponsored by Joy Mode. Now, if you're someone who suffers like I did after going through prostate cancer, get you some Joy Mode. Now, what I love most about Joy Mode is that it's all natural without the side effects found in some prescription medications. Plus, Joy Mode helps with heart health and blood pressure, so it's all good. Now, for more information, visit usejoymode.com. All right, go ahead, get your Joy Mode. Welcome to the Good Living Now podcast, where we talk to real people about real change leading to real health. I'm your host, Harold LaFault, and today, we're having a conversation about cancer. And the reason for this conversation is because so many people are getting this diagnosis. I was recently reading a report from the American Cancer Society that estimated in 2024 over 2 million new cases of cancer. So I wanted to have a conversation with someone that I knew could help navigate this conversation very well for us. His name is Robert Moore. Welcome to the show, plant-based health coach, Robert Moore. Hey, Coach Moore, how are you?
Everything is well. I thank you again for having me on. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and your audience.
Man, I had to have you back when I realized that we needed to have this conversation. Kind of again, we talked about it last year, but I'm seeing this report and just the folks who I know, like my family and friends, all of these new cases of folks being diagnosed. And it's like, first of all, what's going on? And then what do we do? And we can't, one of the things that I know, we can't just simply rely on, I'll say system, to help us get better. And because there's a lot of stuff that happens that folks are just not aware of. As soon as they get the diagnosis, the doctors are only talking about either surgery, radiation, or chemotherapy. They're not talking about any other things. And so I wanted to really have this conversation to hopefully shed light, first of all, on what is cancer, because I think people hear the word but don't really know what it is. Just it's like this spooky word. And what should people be doing once they get the diagnosis? So let's start out with what's going on. What do you think is going on? Why these numbers keep escalating? The estimated numbers for 2024 of over 2 million was the highest. It's never been over 2 million before. So what do you think is going on?
Well, if you've looked at the trend, every year it gets higher and higher. So I can only imagine that in 26, when they're having this conversation, looking at 2025, it'll likely be over 2 million. And what's happening is we live in a society where it's about profits over people, where we live in a society where everything is fast, everything is processed. So a lot of the foods that we're eating are denatured, meaning that they've had all of the nutrients, all of the fiber, all of what makes it actual food stripped away from it. And we're left with these food-like products. All of the products that we consume, well, not just all the products, in general, our environmental toxins levels have reached super high levels. So we're talking about toxins from the air, toxins from the food, toxins from the water, and then they are intentionally putting chemicals in your food, calling them preservatives and calling them other items. There are tons of the food that we are fed here in America that are illegal in other countries.
Right. Yeah.
And so when you're ingesting all of these chemical compounds, the body doesn't recognize them and it has to do something with them. And in doing that, it creates an environment of inflammation and mucus, which is what allows to grow. We talked about this the first time, is only a cell that has mutated and it didn't die like it was supposed to, like it was programmed to, because of the environment. And then it was able to multiply and grow.
So cells are only supposed to survive for so long. They're supposed to die off and then new cells develop. But with mutated cells, and talk a little. What is that? I
So
just want to.
when I say mutated cells, I don't want people to think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Think of a mutated cell as a cell that has just forgot its way and doesn't know what to do. The mitochondria could be broken down. The cellular wall could be broken down. There are several different ways that a cell is not operating like it was designed to. And because of the high meat consumption, a lot of the cells are becoming what's called eternal. And that's when it becomes a type of cell, is once it doesn't die like it's programmed to do. So,
Mm,
more backstory, each cell has DNA. That DNA tells it you're supposed to live for this long and then die. Well, when it
mhm,
doesn't die so that it can be excreted through the body, through which processes, it stays. And then it says, okay, it grows. And then it affects other cells close to it. And then it continues
mm,
to grow. And that's when you get the mass. And then if
mhm,
it reaches, because I was just having this conversation, they still haven't figured out why it goes from just a mass to a mass. But that
mm,
all has to do with the IGF-1 levels and a couple of the other levels that they look at to determine whether or not you're progressing.
mhm. So now, so a person gets a diagnosis. What should they what should they be doing?
The very first thing, the absolute first thing I want you to do is take some deep breaths. And whatever your spiritual belief is, hold on to that faith that your creator created you as the perfect being to heal, and that healing is possible. You have to have that belief and faith that healing is possible and that you are not relegated to whatever prognosis or diagnosis that they gave you, no matter
Mm,
how advanced of a stage they gave it to you in. Because oftentimes when we're giving diagnosis of anything, we accept it and we just throw our hands up and say, oh well, it's nothing that we can do, which means that now we, one, don't have the mental fight, and we aren't programming our cells, because the thoughts that we think actually have an effect on how our cells function. And we're programming ourselves to just say, okay, don't fight, just give in.
right, right, right.
So the first thing is to build the willpower to live.
Mhm,
Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot in his quantum work, that you can actually use the mind to heal the body by focusing on gene expression. Well, you can change gene expression by focusing on the healing through quantum focus, really focusing on and telling yourself, I am healed. I am working through this. I haven't used it and seen it, but
mhm,
if you look up Joe Dispenza, he has
mhm.
thousands of videos and thousands of testimonials of people who were able to overcome their physical ailments by changing how their mind worked.
I know that to be true because when I got the diagnosis, it was so interesting. I don't even know where this came from, but the same year that I got diagnosed, two of my friends had died. So that when I got the
Mm,
diagnosis, I never thought I was going to die. I just never, that never, and I don't even, and I could sense and feel people around me who had that concern, but that was never my concern. I
mhm.
just knew that I knew I needed to change. I knew that I needed to make some changes in my life. I didn't know what those changes were, but I
Yeah.
knew that I needed, to make some changes. But I never, even when I was going through the biopsy and they gave the diagnosis, I just never, I never, for some reason, I can't even, it wasn't even a conscious thing, a conscious decision that I made. It's just like, it was just a knowing that I was going to be okay.
Right. And that knowing is what helped bring you through and gave you the confidence to make the changes.
Mm,
Because you said that intuitively you knew you had to make some changes, but had you just accepted the diagnosis, you may not have been as willing to make those changes.
mhm,
And so that actually leads into the second step after you've addressed the mindset, is you have to make changes. Period, point blank, end of story. Is often tied to lifestyle choices. High consumptions of processed food The reason why your habits lead to it is that it increases your inflammation response and it decreases your immune response. Two
Mhm.
things that give those mutated or those broken cells the ability to replicate, because now it's inflammation and it's not able to do, the body's not able to function at the level that it wants to and metabolize those broken cells. So the first thing is to make your habit changes. And
Yeah.
based off of nutritional oncology, it's a book where they go in and talk about nutrition as the way to help the healing process. You
Mhm.
have to, and I'm going to look a little bit closer, you have to adopt a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. What does that mean? That means that you focus on eating whole foods as close to their original form as possible. We're talking about fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, whole grains, legumes. And when I say whole grains, we're talking about oats, we're talking about quinoa, we're talking about brown rice, wild rice, black rice, things of that sort. You have your legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, all of those, because that's where you're going to get your fiber, your protein, and your phytonutrients. The reason why a plant-based lifestyle is ideal for you is it is going to reduce your inflammation markers, but more importantly, it's going to flood your body with the nutrients that it needs to help your immune system and go through the reparative processes.
Mm. Mhm. And and you make such an important point about making a lifestyle change. What to me was and is so frustrating with the medical system is that that is not even a conversation that is being had when you're at the doctor's office. I
Yeah.
always say, I had three doctors. I had a primary physician, an oncologist, and a urologist. Not
Hmm.
one of them, not one of them talked to me about making any lifestyle changes. They made it seem like something that just came out of the air. Like
Hmm.
there was no correlation to anything that I had control over. So it made it feel like just this random thing that just happened to happen to me.
And that's one of the backwards approaches that Western medicine approaches healing, is they think that everything is causation by an outside factor, where a lot of these things are internal. And the reason why doctors don't look at nutritional lifestyle changes is not what they're taught. They're only taught medical procedures and medicine, because that's what Western medicine was built on. It wasn't built on, let's look at what actually builds and fuels this mechanism that we have as a body. They always go to the end result and work backwards instead of working on prevention or what led up to it. So if you have an inflamed body, you need to reduce inflammation. I mean, that would seem like the most logical thing. However, doctors are only required to take one nutritional course out of their entire years of study. So
That's
that's
just
another
insane.
reason. That's another reason why it's not something that they push, because they don't know about it, a ton of them, unless they've taken the time to do the additional research, like a Dr. Mitten Mills, like a Neil Bernard, like a Michael Greger. These are
Mhm.
doctors who are like, you know what, there has to be a different way of approaching these things. So most of the information that I'm giving you all, again, I always have to give my disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor, not a medical professional. The things that I'm giving you are information from books and doctors that I've studied under and looked at, so that we can apply this in a practical way. Just to give that disclaimer out there.
Right, right,
And that's
right.
why you'll hear me reference these doctors throughout this conversation, because I want you to
Mhm.
know these aren't my words. This is information that I'm getting from them.
Right,
So
right. And so we talk about eating whole foods. Say, for example, somebody just got a diagnosis,
mhm.
but they've been eating the standard American diet. They can't even comprehend giving up the chicken and the fried food. Where should they start? How should they start?
So the first thing that I would recommend clients to do is equate the foods that you were eating in the past with your current condition, so that you don't have the desire for them anymore. And you can take it a step further. Dr. Milton Mills loves to say, Meatless Mondays is just as powerful as Crackless Tuesdays.
Mm.
People really need to understand that the consumption of animal products is detrimental to your body. It just takes a slower time to get you there.
Mm.
And so once you're able to equate the foods that you're eating with the situations that you're in, it makes it a little bit easier to make the transition.
Mm.
And two, it comes down to, do you really want to heal? Because there are proven facts, statistical facts that show that eating animal proteins increase IGF-1 growth hormone. That's the growth hormone that feeds cells.
Mm.
So I was having this debate with someone else. The human body was not designed. We maybe have adapted to, but we were not designed for animal protein consumption. It turns on the negative aspects of genes and it turns off the good aspects. Whereas whole food plant-based does the exact opposite. The phytonutrients, the minerals in your plants and vegetables are going to turn off the bad expressions of genes and turn on the good expressions. So we're talking about epigenetics here. That's
Mhm.
getting a little
Mhm.
bit deeper, but we can dive deeper into that in a minute if we need to. But when
Right,
you're
right.
eating this whole food plant-based, you're going to get all of these phytonutrients that promote apoptosis, which is cancer, which is cellular death, which is what's supposed to happen naturally. But because you're
Mhm.
feeding it foods that have robbed it of its oxygen, robbed it of its nutrients, and giving it foods that it doesn't like, it decides to do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah. And so let's just give the person that's just kind of trying to navigate kind of like what would a day of eating whole
Whole
food
food yeah,
look from
beautiful,
breakfast? Yeah.
beautiful. I'm glad you said it because interestingly enough, I just created a protocol for someone to follow. So for me, the breakfast is going to be a green smoothie. You got your kale, banana, flax seeds, blueberries. That way you're getting tons of antioxidants, you're getting some iron and some protein. Snack.
Stop there right quick. Tell us what are antioxidants? What are antioxidants? Because I think people hear that, they don't know what
Mhm.
antioxidants is and why it's
Okay,
important.
beautiful. So let's talk first, but to know what an antioxidant does, we first have to figure out why. Let's talk about oxidation. What does oxidation mean? It is when oxygen is taken from a thing and it starts to break down.
Mhm.
So when we go through life or through anything, our bodies start to oxidize, which means it's losing oxygen and those cells are dying. Well, antioxidants curb that. It prevents that oxidization of the cell, of the muscles, of the different body parts. So it is basically a shield against the breakdown of your cells,
Mhm.
to
Got
put
it.
it in the simplest form. So that's what
Okay.
antioxidants are. They are the building blocks that prevent your body from oxidization. And when you think of oxidization, the easiest form that most people can recognize is rust.
Mm.
So when you see metal rusting, that's oxidization. That's why you can break off flakes of that metal.
Mm.
That rust is the deteriorated metal. And so that same oxidization is happening in your body to your muscles, your fat, all of the other components. And antioxidants help prevent that from happening.
Okay. Okay. And so we're gonna start with a green smoothie in the morning
Green
for
smoothie
breakfast.
for a snack,
Mhm.
fresh berries and Brazil nuts.
Mm.
That way you're getting more antioxidants, more phytonutrients, healthy fats with the fiber.
Mhm.
Because one of the important things to backtrack, three things that you want to do focus on for your food that are going to do for you. They're going to, one, heal your gut microbe, two, reduce inflammation, and three, improve your metabolism.
Mm. Mhm.
Because in order for your body to actually go through the process of breaking down the cells, that's metabolism. Most
Mhm.
people think that metabolism is just what your body's doing with the food that you eat. Metabolism is how your body converts food to energy and also break down cells,
Mm.
because your body's metabolizing those things. So just to get that part out. Now going back to the meal. So for snack, we're going to have berries and Brazil nuts. For lunch, we're
Mhm.
going to have a large raw salad, mixed greens, cucumbers, tomatoes with a lemon dressing.
Mm.
For a
Mhm.
snack, a second snack, celery and carrots and some hummus. And for dinner, lightly steamed broccoli, cauliflower, and quinoa. So the foods that are beneficial are cruciferous vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
things like grapes, because they have I always mess up this word, resveratrol. I know that I ain't say it right, so y'all can make fun of me later. It's okay. So and I know you're probably gonna ask this question, but there are 7 major steps that I recommend anybody that gets a diagnosis. The first, focus on the mindset. The second, detoxify your life. That means get rid of every possible chemical that you would put on your body, in your body, or near your body. That means get rid of all your nonstick cookware, get rid of all of the Dawn and these heavy chemical laden cleaning products and self-care products, things you put on your hair, on your body, because your skin is your largest organ. So it's allowing those toxins to be absorbed into your bloodstream. The third thing is switch to a whole food plant-based diet so that you're getting the maximum nutrition to heal the healing. Fourth is hydration, making sure that you're properly hydrating. Part of that's going to come from eating high water content food. The other is going to come from drinking half your body weight in ounces in water. Simple math, if you weigh 100 pounds, you need to drink 50 ounces of water. You can scale that based off how much you weigh. After that, we have to get you moving if you're not. Light to moderate exercise is important for improving your metabolism as well as losing weight, because that's going to be releasing some of the toxins that are held in the fat. Then we have to focus on your sleep. I need you to focus. I'm going to slide a little closer. I need you to focus. And I don't say need a lot, but I'm requiring you to focus on 7 to 9 hours of quality restorative sleep. Sleep is more important than eating, than everything else. Sleep is when the body goes through all of its restorative processes. I use the analogy, you can hire the best architect, the best builder, give them all the best materials, all the best tools. But if you never open the job site, is your house ever going to get built? Opening the job site is basically when you go to sleep, because that's when the architect can get to work to do all of the things using the tools of the nutrition that you gave it, the exercise, all of that. So without sleep, all of the other things are a moot point. And then lastly, we have to focus on reducing and eliminating your stress response. So if it's stress in your life, cut it. Using breath work, deep breathing exercises to help reset the nervous system and also improve the immune system. So that's the kind of top to bottom protocol.
Yeah.
And there are then we can get more intricate with each step.
And that's so helpful, because all of the 7 steps that you described are so important for health and healing. And again, I think so many times people are just looking to the medical system, the doctors, to help them, in a meaningful way. And the things that you just described are not even a part of the conversation, and which is why a lot of times people don't even think it's important, because the doctor didn't say
the
it.
doctor didn't bring it up.
Yeah, so it's like that ain't important, and so that they kind of just go down. And the things that you describe are things that people can do even if they're doing conventional treatment. These are things that are going to yet be beneficial for them as well, right?
Absolutely. Even if you take the traditional medical route approach to putting you into remission, eating whole foods is going to help you get over the radiation. It's going to help you rebuild. It's going to give you more energy. It's going to give you more strength, making sure that you're sleeping, because every time I've seen someone come back from, they are absolutely drained. So focusing on quality sleep is going to be important. Being hydrated is going to be important to help you move all of those nutrients that you're eating around to get to where you need to be, as well as flushing out the toxins that your body is releasing.
What do you wish that more people knew about health and healing?
Great question. What do I wish that more people knew about health? Is that it is a lot easier to prevent chronic conditions than it is to heal from them. And you do that by implementing those 6 of those 7. And the only one that you're not worried about is the positive part. But even if you want to include that, it's not going to hurt. But focusing on detoxifying your life, that's what we all need to do. That's one of the leading causes, is the amount of toxins that we're being exposed to. Second, eating the most nutrient-rich foods, because it gives your body the building blocks that it needs to function at an optimal level. Hydration, just being a little bit dehydrated, your body now has to determine what bodily functions is it going to sacrifice. 4, if you're not moving enough, that means now your body can store additional fat, and it stores all of those toxins that your body isn't able to eliminate into that fat. So now again, creating that constant inflammation response. Not getting enough sleep, we've all been there. How high can you function on 4 hours of sleep without being sick, let alone having additional stress being put on the body? And then eliminating as much stress from your life as possible. A lot of people like to say, oh, just reduce your stress. No, we need to eliminate as much stress as possible, and then reduce what we cannot. Because I understand if your husband or your wife is a part of your stress, probably don't want to get rid of them. But if it's a job, something like that, we may be able to make some adjustments.
So the bottom line is that it's not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. It isn't a death sentence. There's some things that people can do to get better.
Absolutely. In my half a decade in walking this life, I have now met at least 6 people who have survived their diagnosis. And out of those, I think you're one of the only people that I know that actually went through the surgery part of the procedure. So 2 people with prostate cancer. I just met a 77-year-old lady who has been in remission for 16 years, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. She did not go through any of the surgeries, she took a whole food plant-based approach, and she went raw. So going raw is actually can be even more beneficial because you're not cooking the foods, although some of the cruciferous vegetables need to be cooked in order for you to absorb them. So I believe there's a balance required in that. But yes, it is not a sentence to death. It just means that you have to be hyper aware of the actions that you take moving forward. And more importantly, something that you highlighted and that you did is, once you've put in remission, you cannot go back to the lifestyle that you were living before. You have to continue along your new lifestyle. Otherwise, there is a very, very high chance that will come back somewhere else. And I tell that story because my aunt beat breast, but it came back in her bones. My mom beat ovarian, it came back in her lungs and brain. So it is imperative for you to not think of this as a diet, but your new lifestyle for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, if you have a second bout, it tends to be more aggressive as well.
Correct.
So, that is important. So, Coach Robert, I know folks that want to know how to, connect with you, get some coaching from you, get a part of you. Did you say you have a new program that you recently put out?
Yeah, I'm actually, so when we spoke before, I was really focused on weight loss as a component of health, but I'm shifting and I'm focusing on metabolic health, which is high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. And so this kind of falls into that. So that's what I'm really focused on moving forward, is helping people get rid of the chronic conditions that take us out too early, because we often think they're hereditary, when the only thing that's hereditary is you have the same habits as the people in your lifestyle.
There you go. So how can people connect with you on Instagram, Facebook?
You can find me everywhere, Coach Robert Moore, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Website is coachrobertmoore.com. It's all there. If you need a consultation with me, you can send me a DM, but going to my website, you can book an actual health consultation so we can have a discussion about where you are and give you a game plan to where you want to go. And if you decide that you really like me that much and you want me to help you along and implement that game plan, we can discuss what coaching would look like.
Awesome. Well, Coach Robert, man, thank you so much for bringing light to a dark subject.
Absolutely. I appreciate you again for having me on and allowing me to share with your audience, because it's powerful when you can have people that look like you give you the information that you need.
Absolutely.
So thank you again.
Thank you.